welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is an episode where we're talking about Apple Automator. Now, I am pre-recording this episode, but I am going to be here in the chat, so drop in a chat there and say hi. Would love to hear from you, where you are in the world, and if you've got any questions, you can ask them and we can focus on them in upcoming episodes. But today, I really wanted to take a look at Apple Automator. Now, it's an app you might have heard about, and I've been using it in my daily work on a Mac, partly just for manipulating graphics and that kind of thing. But specifically, I want to talk about when it comes to live streaming graphics and the way in which we can use Apple Automator to make the process of creating YouTube thumbnails and media play, store images, and even just like sending things over email, making that a faster and easier way of working. So let's take a look over here on the Mac and I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So here's an image that I've output from the ATEM, and you can see it's a 4 megabyte file here, and that is too big to upload to YouTube on its own. It's just like a little freeze frame of me there as a sort of YouTube thumbnail. So I've created a process whereby, and I'll delete my old one here, if I go Option drag out, so because this process will delete the old one. So I've just replicated this one with an Option click and drag, and then I'm right clicking and I'm coming down to my quick actions, and then I've created a couple of things here we're going to look at, and the first one is going to be scaling an image to 1920 by 1080 as pixels for YouTube thumbnail. So if I click on that, it's going to process the image and it spits it back out as a JPEG. And whereas before you can see the file size was 4.3 megabytes and YouTube has a limit of about 2, I think, to upload. Now it's 293 kilobytes. And if you compare the image quality, this is the JPEG and this is the PNG. I just switched between them there and you probably did not see any change at all. So in terms of visual loss, the JPEG does very well. And it's something that we can use on YouTube or even around the web if you're putting it onto a website, something like that, and you're not really going to notice the difference. So let's start by taking a look at ATEM still capture. So how did I create that image? Well, if you're familiar with the ATEMs, we're going to go over to the ATEM software here, and I'm over here. I've got a Constellation 2ME switcher here. It's the same on ATEM Min Pro and Extreme. If you come over to the Media tab, you can click Still Capture, and it's going to take a snapshot of whatever is in program, and it's going to load it into the media pool here that we can then take that from and create that image. I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve. I have on the Stream Deck over here, I actually have a grab still button. So I can either, let me just jump over to this view so you can see what's going on. I can either hit it once and it will take a photo like that. So we can, or if I long press it, it's going to be a 5-second timer. So that enables me as a solo YouTuber to actually like get centered and make sure I'm looking at the camera. So if I press for half a second, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and a smile for the camera like that, and then we have our image that is output there. I'm going to cut over to let me see, this camera. So I've actually got a Canon R5C set up here, a bit more centered. This is going to be my YouTube thumbnail. And so it means that now that this is in program and I don't have any of the other computer stuff that was in the last frames, I'm going to take my still image that we're going to use for the YouTube thumbnail. So again, if you don't have this companion setup that I've got here, you can just click in the browser. But I've enabled, this just enables me to not be like reaching over here for a thumbnail like this. So I can go 5, 4, 3. All right, and in my peripheral vision, I can see it goes, when the countdown finishes, it flashes yellow. So I can see, okay, we've taken the still image. And if we jump back over to, where do we go? Over here. Then we can see that this caption line is put in here. I might take 1 or 2 more just because you never know if you've smiled weirdly. Let's take this, where am I going? Take this one off. I'm going to cut back to camera 3. No, I've got to take my key off, and I'm going to take one more picture just so I have another option to choose from. All right, feels so awkward, but that is kind of how you do that. And do a couple of those and you pick one where you don't look the worst in. All right, so we are going to come back over to the Mac, and we've got now two options that we can choose from. The easiest way to do this from here is just to go File, Save As, and I'm just going to put this on the desktop as untitled because I don't really want anything in here. I'm going to go Select None and just select the media pool, save, and then it will, if I hide this, it's output a XML file, which I don't actually need, so I'm going to delete that. And then there's a media pool in here that will have these two captures. So we can, oh, that wasn't very good. There we go. Okay, so it hasn't, oh, is it back to front? Okay, here we go. So I've got 16, I'm just going to get rid of the ones that we don't want, these ones. Get rid of that. And so we've got capture 10 and capture 16. I gave it some weird names, for example, capture 16 and capture 10. I'm going to go with one where I'm not quite so like this. Let's go that one. All right, so I'm going to select 16. Again, it's 4.3 megabytes. So what I would normally do here is I just mark it green so that I can remember on a bunch of images what have I got that I'm selected to work with. Again, Option and click and drag will replicate it. And then I am going to go Quick Action, scale image to 1920 by 1080, and that is how I would create that. Now, obviously, that doesn't exist on your computer yet, so let's go and make that. What we're using is Automator on Apple, which is this icon down here. If you're trying to find it, you can go to Command and Spacebar, which will bring up Spotlight Search. You can type in Automator, and we can open it up here. I've got a couple of windows open already. Actually, I've got my cheat sheet here because it's something I made a while ago. So what we are going to do now is we're going to go File, New, and the type of action that we want to create is a quick action over here. And we're going to go Choose. And now we have a blank canvas to work with. There's a whole lot of commands that you can choose from. So down under the Photos section, that's where we're going to find our image commands. And the one that we're looking for is Scale Images. But if you're trying to hunt around in here in Automator, then the other way to do it is just go back to the library and search for something. So, and there's plenty in here to explore with. So in this instance, I'm going to type in Scale. And we can see Scale Images comes up. So I'm going to click that and drag it into this action space here. Now this will say this action will change the image and with the files passed into it. Would you like to add the copy finder items action so that the copies are changed and your originals are preserved? If you would like it to make a new one, which I haven't in the past, so maybe we'll do that this way. This time we can add, and automatically it's added in this middle section here of copy finder items as an item before the scale images. So that's going to put it on the desktop. And then I want to scale my images to either by percentage or by size. In this instance, I'm choosing by size to a certain number of pixels. And I'm going to go 1920 because that is going to be the long edge of our thumbnail. And then the next thing that I want to add in here, just to make sure, is change type of images. And we can drag that one in there. Don't add, because otherwise we're just replicating this thing over and over again. And in this instance, I want to choose JPEG just to make sure if it is a JPEG, it's going to remain a JPEG. And if it was a PNG, it's going to become a JPEG, because that's where we're going to save a ton of space. That is all. So now we can go Command S to save it. And we're going to call this tutorial export to 1920, just because I have one in there already. So I want to differentiate between that. Save it as that. Now, if you want to know where that is on the computer, you can actually come up to this header here, and if you hold down Command and click, it'll show you the path, and then you can go back one level and it's under services. So you can see under my home folder, the hidden library folder, which if you hold down Option when you click on View, where are we? No, sorry, Go. If you hold down Option, that's where it's going to reveal library. If you're ever looking for your library folder and you're like, why can't I see it? It's partially hidden. Library services, and then this is where these actions are that we are creating. All right, so this is my tutorial one. And if we come back to my Finder and we go to Quick Actions, you can see that by default it's been put in here. But we can also go down to Customize, and that is going to open up Apple's system preferences, which in the recent OS updates have completely reconfigured to look a little bit more like the iPhone, so it can be difficult to find things sometimes, but it's an easy way to find it. And here we have all of these different things that we're in the process of creating. These are the two that I have so far, the 1280 and the 1920, and then the one that we just created, tutorial export to 1920. All right, so I'm going to close down system preferences, and I'm also going to close down this one. And so let's test this out. I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to put my, I do want to save these images, so I'm just going to copy these two with Command and drag it back one level so you can see they're on the desktop. So I've replicated these images, and I'm going to select them both, and then we're going to create our, I'm going to hide this one so it's a bit more obvious. Right-click our images, and we are going to Quick Actions, and these two are the same. This is just the tutorial one that we just created now. So this one, when I click that, it should, it wants access, so we're going to go yes. And so now this action has copied the file and converted it into JPEGs. So if you want to be safe, that's the way that you could set that up. I took out that step that we had of copying the file first, because for these files, like these aren't raw files. Like when I shoot something on my Canon R5C and we're shooting raw files and it's going into Capture One, that's something in the library that is non-destructible, and then I export from there. And sometimes I'll export a really large file, like a full-size JPEG, and then I'll want to use this kind of action on those files to downsize it, and I don't want to keep track of a whole lot of versions. So that's the way to think about that. If you do want to play it safe, add in that step so it copies it and then makes a new one, or take out that step and you run the risk of, if you do that action, it's irreversible. So choose your own source there as we go through that. Okay, and if we compare the sizes, so we did a batch export there really with 2 files, but you could have 100 files and it's the same thing. You can process a lot of images very quickly. And again, you can see 4.3 megabytes on this one versus 289 kilobytes on the other one. And image-wise, I can't tell the difference, at least not in the preview. I probably could if I was like super pixel peeping, but that is fine. So then this is the JPEG image that you would take to YouTube and upload as your thumbnail, or else you could take into an application, even like sort of a faux Photoshop application, which is Photopea. And you could just drag this into photopea.com, and then essentially you have Photoshop in a web browser where you could add in some text. So you could DJF live, select it all, create some white because I want to be able to see it, and make it bigger because it needs to be big. And it's very basic, but you get the sense that you can play around with this, and then you would go back in and export it as either a PNG or JPEG, depending on transparencies. If you need transparency, turn on JPEG. If you don't need transparency, sorry, PNG. If you don't need transparency, turn on JPEG. And then that's a way, if you go save, that will spit that out into your download folder. So now I have a JPEG image, which I've created as, this is my very basic sort of YouTube thumbnail, which has some text, and you could bring in more graphics like you can in Photoshop and layer something up, or put in colors and, you know, gradients and that kind of stuff if you want to create a more compelling YouTube thumbnail than this one. But you get the idea, and that's how to go about doing that. So I'm going to close this one down. All right, so next, automating, we just looked at that. We just looked at automating the JPEGs. The next one we're going to look at is essentially the same thing. I'm going to hide my window here, and we're going to come back to just under, I'll pull this one up under, come back here. So under the, jumping around, Automator, File, and Open Recent. This was my 1281. So just to give you a look at that. Essentially, it's the same thing as what we did before. I've just created one which I've called 1280. 1280 is still technically HD. It's sort of standard HD as opposed to full HD. And that's a even smaller file size. And so I use this one when, say you need to send your driver's license or ID or something like that, or any of those sort of documents over email, that you just want something really small and compressed. And it doesn't need to be big, doesn't need to be even big enough for a YouTube thumbnail. So that is where, if I compare this one, so I'm just replicating that PNG again, quick actions, and this is my 1280 version. And there we go, we've created that. So now this is the 1080, and then this one is the 1280, and we've saved about half our file size, but like when you get into the kilobytes, it's not quite so bad. You know, 139 kilobytes here and 289. So that just gives you another way to sort of share images. If you don't want to send a larger file to someone, you can downsize that. Next up, Google Slides. All right, so similar to getting images out of the ATEM, you might also want to put images back into the ATEM, or even have some images from decks where you need to put them into Resolve and edit with. So I've had instances either from conferences or just like creative projects with clients where they've sent me a PDF and it has 100 pages in it, and they want you to pull that out and put it into either a video edit or else put it into the ATEM. So I'm going to show you a process here by which we can put graphics into the ATEM. So let's go back to Chrome. And here we have, there we go. A deck that if you've been watching my channel for a while, you would probably recognize this from a year or two ago, which is a video about running Companion and Stream Deck and sort of the network setup. So I've essentially just created, a whole bunch of different slides, and I've got a sort of network set up here. And as I step through each slide, it's showing the different sort of configurations of how you would control this. So I've got 6 slides, which are essentially 6 images. Now, if you try and select it all and go File, Download as a JPEG, what you will find is, under your Show and Finder, it will export a single JPEG, and it's also going to be 960 wide, so it's very small. And that is not ideal, not high resolution. It should be high resolution because text here is vector, and so we should be able to get very high res out of it. So we're going to go, the other way that you could up-res it is if you go to File, Page Setup, and instead of a widescreen 16:9, which is the default, come down to Custom, and instead of inches, you put it into pixels. This is where you're going to see your 960 by 540 by default in Google Docs. So if we turned it into 3840 by 2160, which is 4K, and output that, which I won't because it'll take too long, to just sort of run through it all, it will, essentially what it will do is it'll output it at 2,500. So Google Slides seems to have a limit of about 2.5K, or like 2,500 pixels wide. And so you won't get the full 4K or like UHD out of this. So, so I don't want to do that. Also, as I was playing around before the show, hence why it's in my trash, here was a slide showing the difference between if you up-res it or if you leave it as at the default. So at the default, it looks like this. And then if I up-res the output document, it looks like this. So you notice the actual like point size of the lines here and some of the text is sort of treated differently. It's not as thick, you know, because the points are much smaller, I guess. Smaller, bigger, I'm not sure. But what I want is how it is going to look on the screen when I'm presenting it, which is this smaller original 960 by 540 version. So therefore, what we're going to do is not worry about changing any of this page setup. We're just going to leave it at the default widescreen, 16 by 9. Don't need to change anything there. And then we're going to go download Microsoft. No, where are we going? PDF. So remember, you know, we had 6 pages, but imagine if you had like 100 pages here. You don't want to go through and export each file. Hence why if you export it as a PDF, and we go into our Finder, and if I open that up into Preview, you're going to see that all of these 6 pages have been not only exported, but the text still looks great. It's nice and crisp because it's still a vector. But now the problem is we have a PDF and we need to get that into either something we can edit in Resolve or something that we can put into the ATEM to playback slides. So we are going to use our Automator because I guess you could do export here. Let me see if I tried that. I actually haven't tried this one. Pixels per inch, images. We're going to go to, and we're going to get a new file, preview. Let's see if it exports it nice and big. And I'm going to go to my Finder. Okay, document could not be exported. I think the resolutions that we're starting to play with are getting too big for what Preview is handling here, at least as far as I can see. Okay, so now we have in our downloads folder, we've got this PDF document, and I'm just going to hide this so you can see it, and hide this so you can see it, because we've got some of these files. I'm just going to clean up these files because these are going to jump around the place. All right, this is my desktop, and this is my PDF file. Let's get rid of that, and I'll bring this over the top here. Okay, so my PDF here, and we are going to go to Quick Actions, and the PDF is available now because we've selected a PDF file. Under Quick Actions, this automation that I've created before is UHD and 4K. So let's do the UHD, PDF to PNG, and it is going to spit out all of these PNGs. There's 6 of them on the desktop. It's going to be easier if I see this in a Finder window here, and let's go make this a bit bigger. So the first one is going to look, it's just going to have the file name, and then everything after that is going to have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where it helps to add in a 1, and then it'll be in sequence. So as I step through this, I now have all of these PNGs, and if I open that up in Preview, we can see that it's a 4K image, so it's 3840 by 2160. So great, PNG files. That's what we wanted, right? So now these are images that I would put into Resolve, or you could even just dump them straight into the ATEM. Or, now that we have PNGs, we could go back to our Quick Actions and do an export to 1920. So remember how we got all these extra images now. So we have our JPEGs here, which are going to be even smaller, 137. So it's a really nice way just to manipulate a whole lot of images all at once. So how do we build this? Again, we're going to go into, I'm going to pull up my cheat sheet because this is what I had before, but I'll run you through it. Back to Automator, we're going to go Command N for new, or otherwise you go File, New. And again, we're going a Quick Action, Choose. I'm going to drag this over here. You can see where I'm going with this. So again, I'm going to go render for my search, render PDF pages as images. I'm going to drag this in. Now, the settings that I have found to work well are RGB, and I've usually selected PNG for this just because I want the highest quality, particularly if I'm going to be using this in post-production. I don't really want to be working with a JPEG image as my sort of initial conversion from a vector to a rasterized image. So I'm going to do, RGB, PNG image, and then for 38.4 is like 3840, 384 dots per inch. Maximum value is, what did I do here? 384. I don't know why that's discard change. What did I do there? PNG, RGB, I've done this before. Okay. 384 dots per inch. Oh, I don't know what is going on there. So my cheat sheet here, the one that I was running it before, it has that in there. I'm not sure if I've got something. I'm not sure what I've done there exactly. Render PDF pages as images. Render PDF as images. It should be the same thing. PDF files. In any application, action, black. Okay. Try this at home. Hopefully it should work for you. I think it should. 250, something's wrong here. I'm not sure what I've done. I'm going to keep moving along. Resolution 384. Okay. Just going to get rid of that. Render PDF pages as images. 384. Something's playing up here because if I type in 200, okay. I don't know what's going on there exactly, but I have previously made this one. Here's something I prepared earlier. And I was able to put in a resolution of 3840. And then I would also add in the move, finder items, and that would be moving it to, and I would choose the desktop. I'm just going to X out of that one because I don't want to change it. Close that down. Likewise, don't save. I'm not sure what's going on there. The other one that I have is like an 8K image. So that was 7680, which should be way bigger than what I was trying to do before. And so here we have render PDF pages as images, RGB, PNG, 768 dots per inch with the best compression, and then moving the finder items. Again, you would search up here for render PDF images, pages as images, and you would go move finder items here. So then we would create that. And again, remember this was saved under our library in the services, so that when we come back to an image and we right click and we go quick actions, it's popping up there. But if we go customize, then we could select if we want to turn this on or off. So if I just wanted to clean up the menu because I got a whole bunch of actions and I don't need them all, then I could deselect it like that. So that's how you would create an 8K image to export. And the reason you might want to do that is if you're working in a 4K timeline and you want graphics that are maybe a little bit bigger, so you've got the resolution, you want to do some digital zooms, I've found that to be helpful depending on what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, 4K is probably plenty big. I think these become, I make them this big coming from the PDF because these in post-production kind of become the master files to some degree. So I want the highest resolution and I can downsize from there. Whereas what I was saying before is like if I'm working with photo images that are in RAW and I've exported them to high-res JPEGs, then sometimes I want to compress them down from there destructively. All right, so next, PowerPoint. Oh, I just did that. I keep on jumping my chapters here. All right, well, that's all we have. Is that all we have? No. One last thing was, let me just stop this music here, which was probably self-evident, but the point of creating these as PNGs is that we can put them back into the ATEM. So that is where under the ATEM here is, I got to put this back under, okay, you can see this. Sorry, I keep playing music here. All right. So this is where, to come full circle is what I'm saying, is you would have the graphics under, so I'm getting lost, ATEM software control, and then my Finder, and then you can close these windows down, and we can drag these in like so. And these are matched for, I did the wrong one. I need to clean these ones up. How would we just clean this up by going by kind? I'm just going to get rid of JPEGs because I don't necessarily need them. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I bring them a batch? No, I can't bring them a batch because it's ATEM software. All right, so we would drag all of these ones painfully in. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Whew, okay, so now that I have those images in there, I can, what are we going to do? Let's go over here. So on my Stream Deck, that's where I can actually flick through and control what is coming into the ATEM. So let me see if I've got my multi-view. I do have my multi-view. Yes, this is going to cascade. Okay, so there's my multi-view here, but you can see as I can then, in the upper right corner here is the thumbnail that we created that we had as the still store. And then here I can step through a PowerPoint. So this is to demonstrate how if someone sent you a PDF and let me just get back to my shot here. If someone sent you a PDF for a conference or something and they want you to get it into the ATEM, you would use that process that we have just shown in terms of exporting the PDF. You know, once you've got that set up, it's one click, boom, whole bunch of slides, drag them in, and then you can step through them like so with the Stream Deck, or you could do it manually on the ATEM, which is, you know, it's ATEM software. It's like clicking and dragging. It's terrible. Use the Stream Deck. Stream Deck's great. Companion's great. All right. On that note, let's wrap up things. Really great to have you here watching today. You can find me across the web on other social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, all those sort of things at David Joshua Ford. So would love to see you on there as well, particularly Instagram, do a lot of photography and just life in New York. But until next week, have a great week, and I shall see you Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, bye.